sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. We are working on a sampler quilt called the Friendly Sampler. I started out with some quilt blocks that were given to me. I had 5 different blocks, and I have some previous videos that will show you how to make those. Today we're making a very simple block right here called the churn dash block. It actually has quite a few names. I'll call it the churn dash today, and at the end I'll give you the rest of the names that have been given to this really classic block. Let's get started. Here are some of the fabrics I pulled out today because the leftovers here, this red and blue print, I just have very little of it left. So I looked around in my fabric stash here and tried to find some colorful fabrics that I hope will blend in with these when they're made into some quilt blocks. So today I chose the circles and a green background for my churn dash quilt block. I cut my strips 2.5 inches wide, and the green fabric was the width of fabric, but this circle fabric, this colorful fabric, is a scrap, so it is not the width of the fabric anymore. It's probably half of that, but I think this will be enough to be able to squeak out enough pieces for the block that I'm making today. I also needed some squares, so I cut my squares, 2 colorful squares that are 5 inches and 2 green squares that are 5 inches. After drawing a pencil line from corner to corner, I put seams on both sides of that pencil line for my half square triangles. Before taking those squares out of my machine, I just started sewing those 2 strips together. That way, some of the older machines do not have the thread cutting feature that mine does, so it's always nice to sew your pieces together as much as possible. You don't waste as much thread, and the machine just is able to grab onto that next piece a little bit easier. So I'm going to sew those 2 strips together that are 2.5 inches wide, and then I will have most of the elements ready to go for this quilt block. After cutting along the pencil line, I now have 4 half square triangles that I will press open, and I will also press that long strip that has the 2.5 inch wide strips, the colorful and the green. And after I get everything pressed, I'll be trimming everything to 4.5 inches. After I had my pieces ready to go, I realized I was missing the center of my quilt block, and the center is a solid square, the background fabric 4.5 inches. And now I have enough pieces for this churn dash quilt block, this 9 patch, and I'll put all of my pieces together, and before you know it, my quilt block will be ready to go. I have a couple of encyclopedia type books for quilt blocks, and I'll leave a link below of the name and where you can get them. And this is where I got the information about the names of this quilt block. And what I'll do in the next little bit while I am putting my block together is I will show you all of the names that are given to this very classic quilt block. This block measures 12.5 inches at this point. I call that an unfinished block because it's not in my quilt yet. Well, sometimes they measure blocks that are sewn in, so this would be a 12-inch finished block. And I'm going to keep making quilt blocks for this sampler I'm calling Friendly Sampler. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.